All right, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to another video. Now, I wanted to go ahead and read these transcripts. If you don't know what I'm talking about by looking at the title, this is the July the 14th discovery hearing transcripts from Megan the Stallion versus Milagro Cooper's hearing. Now, I did read these transcripts on X, formerly known as Twitter, last month, but to give the YouTube audience a chance to read over and see what is going on, I decided let's go ahead and read them over here. Now, let's go ahead and get started with the disclaimer. Okay. Under Section 107 copyright, I'm letting you know that I am not an attorney. I am not a paralegal and I am not a judge. I'm just simply saying that, hey, I know how to read. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right. So, as y'all see here, this is from July the 14th discovery hearing. And we'll go ahead and get started here. So, as you can see here, Mr. Humphreys, Mr. Mick Lamont, and then the court, which is Miss Lisette Reed, Judge, Magistrate Judge Lisette M. Reed. So let's go ahead and get started here. Let's start with appearances from counsel, plaintiff first. Mr. Humphrey, good morning, Your Honor. Dan Humphrey and my colleague, David Walsh, on behalf of Miss Megan. The court, okay, very good. Mr. Mick Lamont, good morning, Judge Jeremy Mick Lamont, on behalf of defendant Milagro Cooper. Court, all right. Tell me your name again, sir. Jeremy McLamont. All right. You are a local counselor? Yes, Judge. All right. Very good. I think it's the plaintiff that requested this discovery hearing. I've taken a look at some of the documents. It's a request for production of documents we will be talking about. Yes, Your Honor. There is two noticed issues. There is really three notice issues. There is a request for production that went completely unanswered. It was served back in April. It's been unanswered ever since. We've received no response documents in response to that request, set of requests. And then there is also the issue of spoliation, intentional spoliation of text messages on the defendant's phone. And that leads into the third request in the notice, which is a request for sanctions, which we think are not even proper but prudent in this situation. So I can get right into it if Your Honor. Well, if Your Honor has any questions before I start, and then the court says, yeah. I note that there was a point in which the defendant did not have counsel, and if you could give me those dates in there, so I can determine whether it was, caused by the delay, was caused by the fact that she didn't have counsel, or was it intentional, Mr. Humphreys? Absolutely, Your Honor. So, to back up, what we are really talking about here today is the app called Discord. Discord is a chat server where there is different channels that the defendant controls. She monitors, she posts on them, she responds to comments. She can delete users, include users, what have you. Now, back in April of this year, we served our third request for production. That was back when she was represented by counsel, Mr. Hayden and Mr. Pansier, and they subsequently left on May the 27th. Okay. Mr. Hayden left on May the 27th, and in that email, he said, she still has a third set of production to produce to you. That was the day that the response or objections were due. I see. Now, as a professional courtesy to Mrs. Cooper, and we planted this for you at the last hearing, we had a resume. We said, Your Honor, we have an issue with Discord. We understand she is without counsel, but we are willing, because she represented at that hearing, Your Honor, to comply with counsel, get counsel immediately. And Mr. Mick Lamont and Ms. Dixon appeared, I think, a day later. So we said, let's extend a professional courtesy. Okay. Your Honor, the day after they appeared, we got on the phone with Mr. Mick Lamont and Ms. Dixon and said, we're still missing this third request for production. Okay. We forwarded them the request. We told them again on June the 20th. So now, 14 days, 2 weeks after they've appeared, We said we need these requests for production. These are critical to our case. Ms. Dixon responded and said we needed a couple of days because it was her birthday, June the 23rd, the 24th, and the 25th. They would get us a response on the 25th because she needed 2 days to celebrate her birthday. On the 25th, we received no response. So the 27th, we follow up. And these are in the hearing binder that we sent you, Your Honor. The 27th, we responded and said, we still don't have this third request for production. They never responded. They said, there's a ton of documents in this case. We couldn't possibly get up to speed this quickly. And we said, no, no, no. We need these third requests for production. These just Discord files. And the defendant has produced one screenshot that I'm going to introduce. It's pretty graphic, so I put a sticky note on. But I want you to see the one screenshot that she served from this Discord server that proves there is responsive, critical evidence on that server. To this day, they have never responded or told us why they haven't produced any information from this Discord server. So, our ask to you, Your Honor, is to order the defendant, well, one, that all of her objections are waived because this is way untimely, way overdue, and the law in this district and in this circuit is overdue objections or no objections at all. And two, to order her to turn over her credentials to this Discord server, to the third party neutral that we've already engaged with her forensic cell phone examination, so that they can collect and produce all the responsive document. We already have a third party neutral document review team in place who is trained on all the relevant issues in this case. And honestly, Your Honor, time is of the essence. The defendant's deposition, which we now reschedule 3 times, once with Your Honor in the last hearing. Your deposition is set next week on the 21st. Well, her deposition, sorry. And then the court says, okay, this is Mr. Humphrey. Discovery, fact discovery, and cutoff is August the 1st, less than 3 weeks. Your Honor, we don't have time at this point to allow her to try to self-collect and self-preserve and to turn over what she think is responsive. So that's kind of the first issue. And then the court says, okay. And then Mr. Humphrey says, and I can take a break there if Your Honor has any questions, or I can go right ahead on the second issue. Well, let me start with hearing from Mr. McLamont on why these documents have not been produced. Okay, so at this point, Mr. McLamont starts speaking. Good morning again. I just want to go through a brief timeline of the situation. The third request of production that was sent out was served on the defendant in April 27th of 2025. At that point in time, Ms. Milagro Cooper had counsel. Shortly after that, or maybe less than a month after, that counsel no longer was present, withdrew from the case. The court allowed that. Ms. Cooper was representing herself pro se. I myself did not get into this case until June the 5th. That's when I filed my notice of appearance. At the time that I filed the notice of appearance, my understanding was that I was just going to be admitting someone for pro hac vice purposes. That changed quickly. And now I'm actually involved in this case more than I thought I would be. Write this down and put this in your binder. Okay, now let's continue. And as I got into this case, the day after I got into the case, yes, we did have a phone conversation about a bunch of different issues, discovery issues, and deposition issues and whatnot. And I tried my best to keep up and to catch up with this case because there is a lot of moving pieces. The Discord, in and of itself, is something to kind of learn because I don't want to say new, but it's a newer sort of app. That Discord app and the things that they're asking for in the Discord app, They are not so easy that you can go into the app and press a button and all of the information just appears in a sorry. And then the court chimes in and says, my understanding is what they're asking for is her login credentials. And then here go Mr. McLamont. That's what they're asking for now. The actual request for productions itself doesn't ask for the login credentials. It is 25 different requests that ask for a bunch of different documents that may be relevant to what they're seeking in this case. Okay, that's fair. So did they first say, oh, we'll just take the credentials? What was that? I think the first time they asked for that may have been June the 20th, I believe. Am I correct on that? The credentials themselves. I don't think that's accurate, Your Honor. I'm sorry, it's May the 20th. They asked in the deficiency letter. Like I said, this is before I got on the case. Oh, even before you got on, they were saying, I like you to just give us the credentials. And it's crosstalk. Okay. I think she may have been like about to get off. The previous lawyer was about to get off the case. I think he withdrew on the 24th, or the order was granted on the 24th. But on May the 20th, there was a deficiency letter that asked for an in lieu of the documents, I guess, that they requested. They were asking for her login credentials to Discord, which would give them everything that she has on Discord, which is things that aren't relevant to this case. Right. But it would have gone to a third party document review company, I think FTL or something like that. And then here goes Mr. Big Lamont. FTI, I believe, Mr. Humphrey. Your Honor, if I could just jump in there. We never asked to receive the credentials personally. We asked her to send the credentials to FTI. We didn't want the credentials. We don't want her credentials. Right? I understand. Okay. So what we've done since getting on the case is try to catch up, but also with the documents that they're actually requesting. Ms. Cooper did submit a request to this court to give her the metadata for the Discord app. All right. And we are also engaging an expert of our own so that he can go through and pull out the defense, what the defense is asking for from the Discord app itself, because Ms. Cooper does not want to give up her login credentials, not to the defendant, but to any third party. This is a third party that was contracted by the defense in this case. And so Mrs. Cooper doesn't want to just give up her login credentials to Discord. Discord is something that she makes a livelihood off of. She's a streamer. She uses Discord along with other apps to produce a livelihood and income for herself. She doesn't want to give up her credentials for the app, the entire app. So we're trying our best to make sure we can get these documents. But they asked for 25 different requests, and each request asked for several different types of documents that would be found or possibly found on the Discord app. And then here goes the court. So when will she have the response ready? Mr. McLamont. We just got the metadata, I think, Friday. And I would anticipate we could order the relevant portions of it this week. The expert, we have a meeting with him this week as well. And if he can get access to it and get us what we need, which he does work pretty quickly, then I would say by the end of next week. And then here goes the court. The end of next week, Mr. McLamont. Yes. But the deposition is not the end of next week. When is the deposition? The 21st? It's on Monday, Your Honor, a week from today. Okay, so that's not going to work. And then here goes Mr. McLamont. I mean, if the defense is able to, because I'm going to California for the deposition, there is one on the 21st and there is one on the 29th on the 30th. If the defense is able to move the deposition of Mrs. Cooper to the 29th, I can be out there and attend both of those depositions, the 29th and the 30th. And that gives them more time to go through anything that we produce. So you guys didn't meet and confer before you came to this hearing? And then here go Mr. Humphreys. Judge, we attempted to meet and confer ad nauseum. We have been trying to meet and confer. We sent several emails, several letters. They wouldn't pick up the phone and talk to us. Okay. And then here go Mr. McLemont. They have not called me and I have not picked up the phone. That is not true. And then here go the court. Okay, that may have been California counsel. Okay, so let's back up. We have someone, Mr. McLemont, who is an expert who is going to be getting the documents off of Discord that they are requesting here, or they are requested here. And here go Mr. McLemont. Yes, but he doesn't have a whole week to do it because there is a deposition on Monday. So if he has that, does he have it now? Whoever this expert is, does he have what? The expert. Does he have the login information? And is the expert working on getting this document request? So, and this is Mr. McLemont. So we engaged him last week. Today, we were supposed to have a meeting with him to give him everything that he needs to do the work. In my experience, doing criminal cases, he works pretty quickly. He can PDF things that I usually use this platform where I get discovery through platform, a cell phone platform called Celebrate. He is able to go in there and pull documents for whatever we need and put them in PDF format, which I think would be the proper format to give to defense counsel. And then here go Mr. Humphreys. Judge, respectfully, can I be heard? And then here go the court. Not yet. Of course, you will be heard, Mr. Humphrey. Yes, Your Honor. And then here goes the court. I just want to make sure that I understand exactly what you are presenting to me, Mr. McLemont. So pretty quickly, we don't have a deadline other than it will take him a whole week and he will put it on PDF. And then here go Mr. McLemont. Well, so they're asking for the videos as well. In some of those videos issued, let's say the first request for production and the third request, it asks for documents and communications related to a live stream. This live stream, the way it works is there was an interview conducted by two individuals who have really nothing to do with this case on YouTube. And Mrs. Cooper just took that YouTube video and streamed it, brought it over to our Discord. Once the live stream is done, there is nothing else. The video itself disappears. What they're asking for, and I don't know if this is what I got to or forgot to mention, but if they are asking for the video itself, the video is gone. So the documents, and then that's when the court chimes in. But the source of where she got the video, which is YouTube, and then that's when Mr. McLemont chimed back in and said that would be there. Yes. And then the court, I see. Okay, all right. So it doesn't sound like that's going to work. What you have planned, because we now have the deposition set for Monday, and you are just about to meet with this individual that is your expert, and your documents are already at least 2 weeks after the deadline, right? So it doesn't sound like a practical plan. This case has some deadlines that are going to be strict, in federal court. That's how it is. And I can't expect the plaintiff to be left scrambling at the end of that deadline to comply, right? So it seems to me the most practical way to deal with this right now is to, as plaintiff have requested, give that login information to the third party, FTI, so that they are able to use the week to prepare to review the documents, and between you and plaintiff's counsel determine exactly what or which documents comply with the request. That's what's going to make sense, I think, at this point. There is a confidentiality agreement in place. And then here go Mr. Humphreys. There is, Your Honor. The court. Okay. So that should protect her. And then I'm sure going forward, just like any other login information, she would change her login credentials so that anything that she puts in after the time she turns it in would not be available to FTI or anyone else unless there is something else I don't understand about Discord. There may be many things I don't understand about Discord, but that's usually how login credentials work, Mr. McLemont. Your Honor, I will agree with that portion. I don't know or if FTI has ways to do other things. That's beyond my pay grade, right? Well, my concern is, and I understand that you got into the case lately and that your authority on this case seems to have blossomed whether you like it or not, but it's just not timely. What you are planning to do is not workable considering the deadlines that we have. Next, what else should we look at, Mr. Humphreys? Yes, Your Honor. There is a notice issue about spoliation of text messages. I can continue from back here or come to the podium, Your Honor. And then the court says, yes, I would like to hear that issue as well. Thank you, Mr. McLamont. I really appreciate your information there. And then here go Mr. Humphreys. So, Your Honor, the second issue is about a spoliation of evidence, specifically text messages on the defendant's phone. Now, you just heard Mr. McLamont say that there has been evidence that has been deleted from the Discord server. He just stood at the podium and told you that, Mr. McLamont. I didn't say that. And then the court says, excuse me? He didn't say that. Mr. Humphrey says, well, he said the video that was on the Discord server is no longer on there. Right. But he didn't say it's deleted. There may be things we don't understand about Discord, but that's not what he said. What we do know is there were text messages deleted from the defendant's phone. And we know that those text messages were deleted after. Some of those text messages were deleted specifically. And then that's when the court chimed in and said, were these text messages from Discord? And then that's when Mr. Humphreys chimed back in and said, no, regular iMessages and SMS messages. And the court says, understood. To back up, Your Honor, as you know, defendant tried to produce screenshots of text messages way in the beginning of this case. We met with Mr. Pansier and Mr. Hayden when they were still counsel of record and said, these aren't sufficient. We need to see the metadata. We need to see if there were text messages deleted, if there were text messages before and after this. So we agreed with Mr. Pansier and Mr. Hayden, and presumably they have their client consent to this, to the third-party neutral FTI, who is a leading expert in forensic collections and that kind of thing. Take her cell phone and have a third-party attorney review team, a clean team, if you will, review all those text messages and produce to us the relevant responsive date data. Now, when they did that, they alerted both sets of counsel that they were seeing large swaths of text messages deleted on 3 specific points in time. Now, to be clear, these were text messages that they were received or sent on 3 specific points in time. And this is tab B of your binder, Your Honor. And then the court says, Mr. Humphreys. So this is the letter that we sent on July the 8th to opposing counsel. If you turn to the third page on October the 5th and the 6th of 2022, Ms. Cooper deleted 1,716 messages or attachments that she received or sent on that day. Now, that's critical because that's just before Tory Lanez's criminal trial against Ms. Pete, which was what her statements are about in this case. These precisely also matches a significant gap in these text messages Mr. Lanez's with Mr. Lanez's father. So you have this period in time. You have a significant gap with communications with Mr. Lanez's father. And you have a third-party neutral saying this couldn't have occurred. Then July the 29th through the 30th of 2024. More recently, she deleted 2,613 messages. That's exactly when she was making public statements about Mrs. Pete that are at the center of this case and her alleged mental capacity. And then August the 10th through the 12th of 2024, Mrs. Cooper deleted 1,896 messages when she accused Miss Pete, quote unquote, of trying to deceive the court again. Now, this is blank spoliation. Now, what FTI also told us was that they can see messages were deleted between the time we filed this lawsuit in the time that she handed over the device to them. And I'm not talking a couple of messages here or there, Your Honor. This was 20,000 text messages that were sent or received since the inception of this case to the time she turned over her cell phone. But there is more to it than just that, Your Honor. FTI can see, and defense counsel conceded in their letter to you this morning, that Mrs. Cooper deleted WhatsApp after this case was ongoing. The forensic report, which is in your binder, Judge, on tab B, Exhibit 2. If you turn to the last page, the conclusion page, Your Honor, page 5, the second bullet point says, evidence was identified that WhatsApp was communicating over the Wi-Fi network between July the 4th, 2023 and March the 18th, 2025. That means WhatsApp was on her phone on March the 18th, 2025, communicating over the cell phone network. And then the court says, and this case was filed when? Mr. Humphrey says October the 30th, 2024. And then the court says, okay. So for a substantial period of time, as this case was ongoing, WhatsApp was on her phone. But when she turned it over, and this is the last bullet point, Your Honor, when she turned it over to FTI on April the 9th, WhatsApp was no longer on the phone. Sorry, that's the first bullet point, not the last bullet point. I mean, that's spoliation, Your Honor. And we know that there is responsive, critical evidence on that WhatsApp device because she produced some documents from it. But she selectively produced what she wanted to produce and not the whole system. Okay, so is there some way to get that information now? FTI is, and then she chimed in and she says, not from her phone, I understand, but from WhatsApp. From WhatsApp, we're not sure because we don't know what she has or hasn't deleted from the WhatsApp. From the cell phone text messages, the thousands of messages, there is no way to recover those messages. So we prepared a proposed order that we'd like to share with the court with an adverse inference that we think is appropriate in this matter. I can approach the court with that and show that to the opposing counsel if Your Honor would like. And then it says, okay, so let me make sure I understand. So there is text messages, just regular text messages that have been deleted. According to FTI, there is no way to restore those. And then Mr. Humphrey says, correct, Judge. There are WhatsApp messages, and perhaps they could be retrieved from WhatsApp, Mr. Humphreys. If they have the credentials, they can tell whether or not they could be retrieved. FTI could tell if they have the credentials to her WhatsApp. Okay, so we need to find out about that. Okay, what's the adverse inference you would like the court to conclude? If I could, yes. Have you shown this draft to opposing counsel? We have not shown this draft to opposing counsel, but I can show it to them right now. Well, to him right now. The court says, please, and he says, may I approach? Yes, you can give that to Betty. Thank you very much. It's on the second page, starting with paragraph 3, Your Honor. You can see the case law that we pulled this from, and in fact, in these two cases, which these two cases were provided in the letter that we sent to opposing counsel. I would say it wasn't even as bad as it is in this case. In those two cases, there were company cell phones handed over, and then the company wiped the cell phones. This is the actual defendant wiping her own cell phone. And then the court. So subsection D, in reaching your verdict, you should assume and infer that the documents that defendant deleted would have shown that the statements about plaintiff that are at issue in this case were false, and that defendant either knew them to be false when she made them or had serious doubts about whether they were true when she made them. Mr. Humphrey, yes, Your Honor. So that's the jury instruction that you would like the court to give at trial, Mr. Humphrey. Well, I think it's important for this court to adopt this jury instruction, before trial, because we have summary judgment coming up. And the case law in this case is that the court can consider jury instructions in summary judgment and can consider specifically adverse inference. So it's important for the court to order that this is instruction so that we can use it in our summary judgment motion. I see. I mean, this isn't a couple of text messages missing, Your Honor. This is thousands upon thousands of messages. And we know that she deleted at least 20,000 since the inception of this case. All right. Let me hear from Mr. McLamont on this issue. And then here go Mr. McLamont. All right. So in this situation, the plaintiffs are alleging that Ms. Cooper deleted these text messages because they had something to do with this case, and she is concealing information about, I guess, this case or her liability as it relates to the claims that are against her. That's what they are saying, yes. Without any evidence that that is actually what is happening here, that there is any intent on her part to delete these messages for this purpose. I mean, I don't know whether she normally deletes messages in this matter. I don't know if these are threads that she is deleting, like like going into the thread and deleting the entire thread, or going one message by one message to delete them intentionally. I think that this issue should probably be revisited after her deposition. During her deposition, they can ask her questions about whether and why she deleted these messages. And with actual proof, sworn testimony, then we can revisit whether she intentionally deleted messages for the purpose of hindering the plaintiff or the court from getting to the truth of the matter in this case. The jury instruction here that reads, in reaching your verdict, you should assume and infer the documents that defendant deleted would have shown that are statements about plaintiff, etc., etc. I think that's too strong of an instruction. The word can, I think, if it does get to the point where the court is going to implement that jury instruction, the word can instead of should is more appropriate, because the way that it's written now is basically the case will be over and that's handed to the jury, and the jury hears an instruction from the judge that they should assume and infer that the documents met a particular element of the case, of the claim in the situation. And that would pretty much be taking the case out of the hands of the jury and telling them how they would find for a particular party in this case. So without actually having proof that that it's what was happening, I think that, that out of the 20,000 messages that they are claiming were deleted, I don't know if even one of them, maybe 10 of them, have any relevance to this case. And if they can be retrieved, and if they are WhatsApp messages that can be retrieved, I think that would rectify this issue, and this jury instruction should go forward. And he said shouldn't. Okay. So I think it's a premature ask from the plaintiffs to insert this jury instruction in this case, whether it's for the summary judgment or for the trial purposes. And they can ask whether they need to ask her in her deposition about this. It says, all right, thank you very much. Counsel, why can't we at least postpone that until we have an opportunity to question her about these deletions? Also, I would like to get more information about the deletions, right? I mean, it's important to me to understand what came before the deletions and what comes after, right? So that I can put what you're saying into context. Let's say what came before the deletion was something that had to do with a health issue that she has that she may not want out there in the world, or something else having to do with relative. Then I can see how a person might then, being a layperson, think, or I should take those out because they are private. But if the text messages right before the deletion say about the case, about the situation we're talking about with Miss Pete, well, of course, I see your point, so I need more context. And then here goes Mr. Humphreys. Absolutely, Your Honor. And I can provide that context because FTI, the forensic third-party neutral, has given us these contexts. They know these are not inadvertent deletions. And then here go the court. Is that here in the book? That is, I believe, in the email. So I have a copy of the email, if I could approach, Your Honor. This is where they flagged for both counsel the issues, and opposing counsel has seen this. We sent this to him, Mr. McLamont. I don't know which email you're referring to, Mr. Humphrey. So this is an email from, I'm just trying to find it. We have an email from FTI where they say that these text messages were deleted on specific dates, on very specific dates. And they know in the spreadsheet that we provided, Your Honor, in the courtesy copy, if you expand that spreadsheet, it shows you where all the missing text messages are. We know that those weren't inadvertent or subject to some retention policy because there are text messages immediately the day before and immediately the day after. And then the court says, about what? That I don't know off the top of my head, Your Honor. But we do know that there are missing text messages between the defendant and not only Mr. Langs's father, but defendant admits that there are missing text messages between her and Mr. Langs in her informal discovery responses. So these are critical pieces of evidence because, as Your Honor knows, one of our theories in this case is that the defendant is a paid mouthpiece for Mr. Langs to avoid the orders that are preventing him from saying these things himself. So that is critical to our theme and theory of this case. And then the court says, right, Mr. Humphreys. And that's critical evidence. And FTI has said there are text messages the day before, there are text messages the day after. So we know these large swaths of text messages couldn't have been due to retention settings or inadvertent. And not for nothing, Your Honor. The defendant is a technological savvy woman. She streams 5 to 6 hours every single day across 5 platforms simultaneously. She runs the Discord server. Opposing counsel has said that's how she makes her living. That's her business. So it's just not conceivable at this point in time that these were inadvertent productions. And not for anything, Your Honor. Back in February of 2022, the defendant said on a tweet, and we have this tweet here that we can provide, Your Honor, that there is pieces of evidence in the Tory Lanez trial that she doesn't believe. And if anybody disagrees, they can sue her. So as of February 2022, she's on notice that somebody could sue her about her statements regarding Miss Pete and the criminal trial of Mr. Lanez. I mean, and then that's when the court chimes in and says, okay. And then Mr. Humphreys continues. I mean, Your Honor, we have been at this for months and months and months. We have met roadblock after roadblock with counsel recusing, counsel withdrawing, new counsel saying they need time to get up to speed. They need time to get up to speed. We're barreling toward the fact discovery deadline and the trial date in November. Your Honor, my client wants to go to trial in this case. She wants the truth told and in the court. So if I understand what you're saying correctly, you have from FTI the series of texts between the defendant and Tory Lanez is the person that was. There's a lot of lanes here. Sorry. And then Mr. Humphrey says, there are a lot of lanes here. So Tory Lanez is the criminal defendant who shot Miss Pete. And then the court says the criminal defendant. And that there are text messages missing right after. When you know that they're actually communicating with each other, Mr. Humphreys. So I'm not sure if the text messages that they see on the cell phone are Mr. Lanez or if they're with somebody else. I'm not sure about that, Your Honor. I know that there are text messages on the cell phone. But like Mr. McLamont said, which it struck me as odd that he said, we don't know what happened to these text messages. The first thing I would have done, Your Honor, was ask my client what happened with these text messages, especially when I knew it was a noticed hearing in front of Your Honor. So the fact that he doesn't know kind of strikes me as maybe there probably was some bad faith here. The court will Here's the thing then. I think you're going to have an opportunity to ask her directly those questions on Monday. And if y'all haven't noticed, we've already read over the actual transcripts, but this is for y'all's record. So let's continue. Okay, so Mr. Humphrey says, okay, the court says those answers will give you, if you are correct, even further evidence to come before the court to get this type of instruction. And then Mr. Humphrey says, yeah. The court says, so I think that this is something that, y'all give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. So let me repeat myself. The court says, so I think that this is something that, and we still have time to deal with that issue. So after that deposition on Monday, if you think that you have the evidence to come back, you should do so. Contact Chambers. We will have a hearing on it again, and that will give you the opportunity also to give me the context for those missing texts, so that then I have what I need to make such a strong jury instruction. And then when Mr. Humphrey says, Your Honor, could I make a suggestion? Yes. Perhaps it would be prudent to set an evidentiary hearing where we could have FTI come in, we could have the defendant come in, if she'd like, or if opposing counsel think it's appropriate for her to testify, and we can give you all of the evidence. And then that's when the court says that will be perfect. And we could do that on a date determined today or tomorrow for a future date, just so that we are keeping this case on track and we are keeping this case moving forward, because we do have a very quickly approaching deadline. So I think that might be a reasonable solution here. The court says, I think that sounds like a good idea. So we'll do that. Okay. If you contact us on Monday, I'm sure we can set an evidentiary hearing quite quickly. Absolutely, Your Honor. And then the third, after Monday, the third notice issue, Your Honor. The rules require that when you have to come before the court on discovery issues like this, that fee shifting is appropriate unless there is good cause. Nothing that I heard from opposing counsel or the email that they sent at 2 a.m. suggests good cause. And then the court says, and what would you suggest the amount of the fee for this? Your Honor, I think we could work that out between ourselves. If Your Honor orders entitlement to fees, we can have a discussion with counsel, work that out ourselves. And if not, the proposed order I gave you has language that says we will meet and confer within 5 days. If we can't, we will submit our bills to the court, and then you can determine what's appropriate. The court says, okay, I think that's appropriate, that there should be a meet and confer on the attorney fees. And then Mr. McLamont, anything you want to add? That's when she asks him. And he says, Judge, I know plaintiff's counsel is saying there is no good cause for these issues on this case. But when these discovery requests were sent out, from that time, from when the discovery request was due, Ms. Cooper was either falling out with her attorney or her attorney was getting ready to withdraw. And he did withdraw. So by the time this deadline came, she had no counsel. And then it took a week or so for her to get counsel. I got on this case on June the 5th. And since then, I've had to try to get up to speed with this case, try to get up to speed with this court. There is 25 requests for production just for this one request for production. And this case, there is a previous counsel, Michael Hayden, who does not really respond to any messages, emails, phone calls, or anything like that for him to help us get up to speed with what was done in this case and what was not done. And then, we're moving the case along. We're setting depositions and we're trying to get these things done. So it's not as if we're just sat and didn't say anything. Understood. And that's when the court chimes in. So no attorney fees should occur for the time in which Ms. Cooper had no attorney. And then that's when Mr. Humphrey says, okay, the court says, I understand there is some time that she had an attorney before, but she didn't have an attorney essentially for about 1 month. Well, a month. Y'all get it. Mr. Humphrey says, I think it was a little bit less than that, Your Honor. The withdrawal was on May the 27th. And then we were before Your Honor on June the 4th. And then they appeared on June the 5th. Okay. And be aware, counsel, that the attorney fees are going to have to give new counsel some time to get up to speed. Mr. Humphrey says, absolutely. The court says, so you should have consideration for that, but I do appreciate your concerns. Mr. Humphrey says, thank you, Your Honor. They says, all right. Anything else today? Mr. Humphrey says, Your Honor, can we just get a date certain by which she has to turn over her Discord credentials to FTI? Court says, good point. Why can't that be done within the next 24 hours, Mr. McLamont? If the court is ordering her to turn over her credentials, then it can be done in 24 hours. And Mr. McLamont says, yes. I'm going to ask that be done. The credentials will go to FTI, the third party, within 24 hours. And Mr. Humphrey says, and the WhatsApp credentials as well, Your Honor. And then the court says, FTI is hired to review that as well. The WhatsApp, Mr. Humphrey says, yeah, because it was uninstalled from her phone. They would need her credentials for that. I don't know how that works. I never put any credentials to get into WhatsApp. You have to either use a phone number or phone itself. Right. It's not separate. Excuse me. I don't know that is how that works. Mr. Humphrey says, we will meet and confer and work on that, Your Honor. The court says, yeah, I think you will need to. Yeah, because I'm not sure. At this point, we don't know standing here whether it's even possible to get that information. It would maybe be something you would have to get from WhatsApp directly. So maybe all you would need is perhaps an affidavit from her or something from her that can go to WhatsApp for WhatsApp to turn it over. So as y'all know, I think they did do an affidavit, because if you think about the affidavit that they did to AT&T, her cell phone carrier, when it came down to the evidentiary hearing, they brought that up. And then also think about when they deposed Caesar, and then when they deposed her, y'all heard and y'all saw the actual evidence that was placed in that they did, in fact, get that information. But let's continue. So it says, thank you, Your Honor. And if Your Honor wants a copy of the proposed order that we sent you on Word doc, go ahead and please send that to Chambers email on Word doc, and we will make some edits to it so it can reflect the court's ruling today. And then that's when everything had proceeded. And the court reporter, that's who the court reporter was. And down here, it is just a little index. So that's it, y'all. Now, if you like what you've seen today, like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, see you soon. Take care.
Oh, stepping man Tingz. Step in the court, I'm the eyes and the ears, dropping the facts, no rumors in here. From the filings to the rulings, I'm spilling the tea. Every dog, every line, yeah, it's all from me. You want receipts, I got the page, breaking it down, center stage. From subpoenas to them big appeals, Document Tingz, we keep it real. Yeah, Document Tingz, bringing truth to the light. Paper trail strong, yeah, we reading it right. From the docket to the drop, every case, every scene. I'm your courtroom reporter with the facts in between. It's Document Tingz, bringing truth to the light. Paper trail strong, yeah, we reading it right. From the docket to the drop, every case, every scene. I'm your courtroom reporter with the facts in between. No cat, no spin, just the ink on the sheet. From civil to criminal, I'm bringing the heat. When the gavel come down, I'm writing a note, giving you the story from the filings that show contempt or appeal, I'ma let you in. Settlement talks or a jury win. Public records, private fights. Document Tingz, keeping days and nights. Document Tingz, bringing truth to the light.